Welcome everyone to Goldschmidt TV. I'm your host, Greg Komorowski, and we're coming to you live from the vibrant city of Chicago, where the Goldschmidt meeting is in full swing. This is the place where the world of geochemistry comes alive, and we're here to bring you an insider's view of all the action. Over the course of this incredible event, we'll be sitting down with some of the brightest minds in the field, event leadership, cutting-edge researchers, and the experts who are shaping the future of geochemistry. We'll dive deep into their insights, explore their groundbreaking work, and hear their thoughts on the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead in this ever-evolving field. Hi there, everyone. We're here with Liz Sykes, our current Geochemical Society president and also a professor of oceanography at Rutgers University. How are you, Liz?
I'm good today.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get right into it. First question for you. As the current president of the Geochemical Society, what does this role mean to you? And how does it influence your perspective on the 2024 Goldschmidt meeting here in Chicago?
Well, what it means to me is I signed on for this job because I wanted to influence geoscience in a different way. As scientists, as academics and professors, we do a lot of individual research. That pushes ahead the data stream. But what else can you do to bring people into the field, influence other people with the science? You can't do that by being a scientist alone. You have to accept a role like this to govern a society and work with people in the society. And what does that mean for me here at here in Chicago?
Yeah.
Well, we are here with the Democratic National Convention, and we decided, yes, and it's like, so we decided when we heard that we were going to share the town with them, they're sharing it with us. We're more important.
So
right?
let's call it what it is.
Right. So we decided we would lean into the idea that science should be informing policy. So we've got a cross-cutting session that talks about that, and we've got a lot of people giving talks that are not just science, but science that impacts. How does that science influence what people are doing? I can give another example by saying, for example, groundwater. Groundwater is a big issue. We're having a lot of trouble with resultant pollution from many years of not understanding how that works. And people need to know, can they drink their water? And that's something that geochemistry can bring. So we've got a couple of people who are actually talking about active research on that.
Wow. Well, thank you for what you do and for allowing us to drink clean water.
Yeah.
That's pretty clutch. All right, second question for you. Can you share any specific initiatives or themes at this year's meeting that you believe will have a lasting impact on the field of geochemistry? Perhaps the groundwater is already part of that?
So our policy, our geoscience informs policy. That's the session that we're doing, and it's across sessions, and that's really important. But it feeds into the fact that that geoscience needs to be rebranded or rethought of as beneficial to society. Some really famous things that geoscience has done and does still do is oil and mineral mining, but it does, like I've already said, it does. We look at groundwater. We have a whole bunch of sessions on carbon capture from the atmosphere, and so there's many ways that geoscience is beneficial. Understanding our Earth, understanding our planet, and all of the chemistry in it is something that we need to do to exist sustainably.
Gotcha. As the Geochemical Society collaborates closely with other organizations, can you speak to the joint directions and future activities that are being planned to advance the field?
There's a Geosciences Society Forum that the presidents of all these societies work together, and one of the things we are looking at is this messaging and this ability for us to get the message across that we need more people in the field. We need people to be engaged with the tools and the science that is going to give us a sustainable future. And so it's something that we're doing together. For example, we put out a joint Earth Day statement every year. And that sounds very small, but it means that we're all talking with each other and trying to think about what can geoscience do for us, not just the things that we don't like about geoscience.
For me, I hope to learn from different professionals coming from different universities. I actually just had my mentor-mentee program, so I was connected with another professor from the university in India. So I do hope to expand my knowledge, my network. I'm in my third year into the PhD program, so I do hope to just gravitate and expand my knowledge throughout my PhD program.
I'm hoping to get some better insight on just the origin of life and search for life, and more specifically, I guess, kind of the chemistry involved, prebiotic chemistry, just learning more about that kind of general area, because I think it's something I would like to go back to graduate school and pursue a further career in maybe possibly NASA in the future.
So this is my first time presenting at Goldschmidt, and I will be presenting poster on Tuesday session. And I'm hoping to get insights and feedback on my experimental work that I've been doing for the past 2 years. So yes, more geochemical suggestions and inputs for my projects that I've been doing.
Hello and welcome back to Goldschmidt TV. And we're thrilled to have you with us as we continue to explore the groundbreaking research and innovations that are shaping our understanding of the Earth and beyond. As part of our Thought Leadership series, we're taking a closer look at the remarkable work being done at the Earth Materials and Archaeometry Center, or EMAC, at the University of Manitoba. EMAC is at the forefront of research that intersects geochemistry, archaeology, and material sciences, providing invaluable insights into our planet's present and past.
The Earth Materials and Archaeometry Center's mission is to foster research focusing on societal needs. There are basically 3 key areas of research at the center. One's on critical metals research. One is on the rise and fall of civilizations. And the third is the impact of climate on ancient human populations and animals, including dinosaurs. Critical metals are important because we are transitioning from a fossil fuel-based energy society to a more green energy society. These critical metals are generally associated with some kind of technology industry or manufacturing industry. Our research at the center so far has concentrated on critical metals such as uranium, lithium, and rare earth elements, and beryllium. And we work with several industry partners to explore and develop techniques for the exploration of these critical metals. EMAC's interdisciplinary research transcends the boundaries of one specific discipline. We can rely on the expertise of our members, which have backgrounds in biology, chemistry, archaeology, geology, and material science. We are not bound to ask very specific questions. We can ask really broad scientific questions that transcend all of these different disciplines.
My research program is focused on biomineralization, so the development, the evolution, and the ecology of hard tissues such as bones and teeth. In EMAC, we examine fossils at a microstructural, even a nanostructural level, and at a geochemical level in order to try to understand what the lives of these animals were like millions of years ago. So by understanding how animals lived in the past in a world that was very different from the world today, we can actually use that information to predict what might happen in the future. Once the planet is continuously changing, we can try to predict how humans and other animals will react to those environmental and climate changes. My work intersects with that of Dr. Julia Gamble, who looks at human populations and medieval populations and indicators of stress or how past environmental changes might have affected those populations. So with an understanding of what's going on in humans, we can actually apply that information even farther back into the fossil record to look at what types of stressors might have been affecting animals that were millions of years old, around way before humans appeared.
Biological anthropology is necessarily interdisciplinary in nature. I'm a human osteologist, a dental anthropologist, and a bioarchaeologist. and this means I study the human skeleton with a focus on dental microscopy, looking at teeth under a microscope, and I study these from the archaeological context, so I integrate what the archaeology can tell us about the environment people were living in. So without an interdisciplinary approach, biological anthropology would be really limited in its scope. The facilities at EMAC provide both improved microscopic capacity and also the capacity for chemical analyses that allows me to better understand those structures. And so not only are the analytical capacities here, but the expertise, the collaborations are really fruitful in cross-pollinating ideas and knowledge and allowing us to look at these questions in entirely new ways.
The objectives of EMAC in archaeology largely surround the physical and chemical traces of human behavior. That's effectively what we want to do. We want to take a look into the environment and objects that were created by people and extract as much information as possible. Ceramic technology is an interesting technology because it's been around for at least 30,000 years. But in the last 30 years, there's been a greater interest in trying to understand the technological style, or how things are made, the very specific ways things are made. And in order to do that, we actually need more than archaeology can tell. We need more than the object's appearance can tell us. We need to actually get into the object itself. Archaeology, I think, is an inherently interdisciplinary approach to the past. It has to be, because we have to understand or attempt to understand everything. And that's the real exciting part about this center, is that we finally have kind of a formal envelope to put all of us, rather than us wandering about in science trying to answer questions.
Hello everyone and welcome. I am here with Corinne Le Carré, the plenary speaker for this meeting from the Royal Society Research Professor of Climate Change Science at the University of East Anglia. Wow, that's quite the, man, it's, you know, quite the title that you've got there. Thank you so much for your time, Corinne.
Thank you.
Let's get right into it. Corinne, you'll be hosting one of the key plenary talks at this year's meeting. Can you give us a sense of what you'll be talking about?
Yes, thank you. So I'm really pleased to be here for one. So what I'm going to talk about today is the interactions between climate change and the carbon cycle. I work really on contemporary climate change, so recent decades and a little bit into the future, but I'm going to try and put this in the context of longer term interactions between the Earth and the climate. So this is going to include some comments on what we know about the natural environment, but also comments on where we are with tackling climate change at the policy, climate policy level.
Understood. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, that is probably one of the greatest challenges of our time, I would say.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Not excellent, but I'm glad that you're looking into it. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, in your experience, how has participating in conferences like Goldschmidt contributed to advancing your work in climate sciences?
Oh, it's been really tremendously important to be at such conferences, because this is where first, in the run-up to the conference, you really bring your thoughts together. Where have I advanced? What do I have to say? And then through the interactions, the thinking process, the exchanges with people here, being exposed to other people's work, that really influences what I'm going to work about in the next year and the next few years.
Incredible. Wow, wow. So it really is beneficial to have a meeting of the minds for you specifically, it sounds like.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those meetings in person are really important. In virtually, they add up as well. So a balance of the two is, has been really fruitful, in my opinion.
Wonderful. Now, given the importance of your research in influencing climate policy internationally, How do you see events like Goldschmidt helping bridge the gap between scientific research and governmental action, as we were talking about?
The interface between scientists and policymakers is extremely important. It's one we're not used to deal with as scientists. It's uncomfortable. We're really clearly out of our comfort zone. But I've learned to do it through my career. And I like it that I can talk about two scientists of my policy work, which I will do this week at the Goldschmidt conference. I think it's important to encourage people to get out of their comfort zone, to think about what is the implications of their research for climate policy, and to think about what research they could do themselves to inform climate policy in the future.
Incredible. It's funny that you say you'd be uncomfortable with that, because I think politicians would probably be uncomfortable trying to understand the science of it. So it might be, you know, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, there is a middle ground.
Yeah.
Yes,
Let's hope we can
yes,
find
yes.
it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of policy, do you notice any changes because we currently in Chicago is the National Democratic Convention? Is there any kind of layover or overlap for you with that?
Well, there's no direct overlap with the Democratic Convention, but there is, the climate research community and the geophysical research community has been tremendously successful in synthesizing the common knowledge for delivery of support to policy making. I mean, climate policy is really extremely well developed. Policymakers take it very seriously. This is actually one of the messages that I will be saying in my talk, is that I don't want to hear anymore nothing is happening about climate change. There is a lot of things happening about climate change. There is a lot of demand for sound scientific information, and I think the scientific community, as wide as it is, steps up to the challenge.
As many of you know, the Goldschmidt meeting is not just about exchanging scientific ideas. It's about celebrating the groundbreaking work being done around the globe to advance our understanding of the Earth and to protect our communities. One such initiative is the USGS USAID Volcano Disaster Assistance Program, a true testament to the power of collaboration in the face of natural disasters. In our upcoming segment, we'll dive deeper into the program's vital contributions, explore the innovative techniques they use, and hear directly from the experts who make it all possible. You're watching Goldschmidt TV.
Volcanoes are complicated, and they're all behaving in slightly different ways. And so it's useful to be able to look at different aspects of what's going on and to be able to put the information together to come up with an understanding of what's happening. The purpose of VDAP is to make sure that volcanic eruptions don't become volcanic disasters. Our focus is to support volcano observatories through a combination of in-country or virtual support during volcanic eruptions or unrest, and long-term capacity building through donations and training.
In eruption forecasting, we have a variety of different tools we can use to measure processes that we can't see, things that are happening beneath the surface. And the best forecasts bring all of those data together to try to create the best, most complete picture we can of what's happening beneath the surface. So a multidisciplinary forecast is a forecast that combines seismic information, geodetic information, gas emissions, infrasound, even visual observations, cracks that are opening at the surface, sounds that people are hearing, putting all that together to create a complete picture of what's happening.
Monitoring volcanic gases is really challenging, and there's multiple reasons for that. The goal is to have something that's small, relatively inexpensive, that doesn't take a lot of power, that is going to give you data with high analytical quality, that's also going to survive in some of the harshest environments on Earth. So our volcanoes tend to be 10,000 feet tall, covered in snow and ice, and very inhospitable and difficult to get to. And so what we did is we built a lot of automation into our instruments. And so, for example, our instruments, we deploy them with full meteorological stations, so we understand the wind direction and how that might influence the gases that are being transported to the stations. We also deploy them with standard gases. And so rather than a technician having to go up and check that all the sensors are working, it does it automatically once a month. And so we leverage that technology in order to get data that is objectively of high quality, and it also reduces the manual workload on our small staff.
I've been working in Indonesia for about a decade now, and I've helped our counterparts there implement volcanic gas monitoring at a number of very active volcanoes. At Sinabung, we found that gas emissions decreased in the days leading up to explosive events. We attributed that decrease to a sealing of the conduit, which led to pressurization and eventually explosion. And we were able to use that information, the decrease in gas emissions, to develop a probabilistic forecast for an explosion occurring on any given day. Since the geochemical monitoring techniques are relatively new, there's a lot of need for assistance with not only instrumentation, but also expertise on how to use the instruments and data interpretation. VDAP has generous support from USAID, which allows us to help our partners in implementing these types of monitoring techniques for geochemical processes. And so besides donating instruments to our partners, we also sponsor workshops and organize those where we bring together volcanic gas geochemists from all over the world to train on instrumentation and also talk about data interpretation and how to use these data in conceptual models and eruption forecasts.
One of the ways that we assist the community is to try and develop good protocols for the entire volcano community in all countries. And we can bring them together and we can talk about what's the best way to report data, how do we communicate our findings with the public, what's the best protocols to have in the case of a crisis. We can work on alarming software. So all sorts of things that we can do as a community that benefits everybody.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? I'm here with Sumit Chakraborty, of course, our keynote speaker and past president of the Geochemical Society. Thank you for being here, Sumit.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. Let's get right into it. I have some questions for you, very important questions. As a past president of the Geochemical Society, please tell us about your experience you had while in the presidency, and what does that leadership role for the Geochemical Society and Goldschmidt mean to you?
Well, the first thing I found out as president was the incredible number of people who are not scientists who play an incredible role in running this conference. We just go to the conference as scientists and see things, but we just never know about all the people who are working behind the scenes. And in particular, I'd like to call out the student volunteers who do an amazing amount of work, and they're going to be recognized today with an award. They're going to get a Distinguished Service Award.
Excellent.
So the whole group of them. So that's the part that you learn as being a president. You get to know the finances, the challenges of balancing the books. But the real reward comes from getting to know the entire range of people who are part of the Geochemical Society. So in every little Zoom call that you have, you talk to people about what it is that they do, and that's an incredible shortcut to learning a lot of geochemistry. And I've taken away things for my own research, modeling tools, analytical tools that I've found out that way. So for those who worry about taking on an administrative role in a society, I just tell them it's not something that takes away time from your science. It actually adds to your science. Very rewarding. I encourage people to do that.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, they're lucky to have you, as far as I can tell. So that's a very nice.
I don't know about that, but you know, I think it's a great experience, a learning experience. As people they tend to underestimate that.
Excellent. Don't be intimidated. If you want to get into administrative, get right in there. All right, right on. Excellent. Next question for you. Now, the Goldschmidt meeting often serves as a platform for collaboration across different geochemical disciplines. So how do you see the joint efforts of the participating organizations, such as the Geochemical Society and the EAG, evolving in the future?
Well, I think it's a great plus, actually, that we have two different societies with the same objectives. They have the objective of supporting teaching and research in geochemistry and propagating it. That's the same objective. But they operate in different geographic locations, different cultural and social political settings, and that brings all the benefits of diversity. So, you know, you have differences in access, differences in funding that you can access from different places, and because you're operating on different legs, you can tap into all those various things. So, and particularly today, you know, we live in a very conflict-ridden world, a very polarized world. So it's very important that we use all of these different legs that we stand on, and you have to pay attention to the fact that the legs have to move in tandem. But once you do that, it's a real strength because you know, you're not being supported by one leg. So that's a real part of diversity that you can tap into.
I like it. Even though you're an expert in the geochemical world, we're still talking about physicality and walking properly.
No, I mean, we got to do that because, you know, again, I mean, I go back to run the conference, it's not just scientists. It is real running a big event thing. And that's what helps our science. So we need to make sure that that happens well.
And it sounds like you're approaching this from a global perspective now.
You have to. Geochemistry is global. The science we do is global. The problems we look at are global. So the approach has to be global.
Well, thank you so much, Shumit. Very nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Of course, we have Shumit Chakraborty, of course, our keynote speaker and past president of the Geochemical Society. Thank you so much for your time and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this session at all.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, sir. And that brings us to the end of today's Goldschmidt TV broadcast. A huge thank you to everyone who joined us, our incredible event leadership, the field experts who shared their insights, and of course, you, our viewers, for tuning in. Remember, the conversation does not stop here. Whether you're attending in person or from afar, you can keep up with all the excitement by following us on social media. And if you're staying at the Hilton, be sure to catch us later today in the comfort of your hotel room. We've got plenty more to come, so stay connected and keep watching Goldschmidt TV for all the latest from this remarkable event. Thanks again for being a part of it, and we'll see you soon.